Alright, should be live. The update thing on my Streamlabs info, or I should have. But then again, I thought I hit it the other day too, and then I wound up with 2 Building Miracle Part 4s instead of 1 Building Miracle Parts 4 and 1 Part 5. So now we're on 6, and we're starting with Dragon's Maze today. Ostensibly one of the worst Magic sets, but there's a lot of contenders for that, and like every Magic set, oh good, it does say Part 6. Just because it did not do well in its, tournament formats, and hasn't added a lot to the Eternal formats, doesn't mean we can't find a card that is very specifically good in our Commander deck. 5/5 Worm token, no. 3/3 on the battlefield, gain 2 life for each creature you control. Can't run armed and dangerous. 5 mana 4/6, no. No. 1/3, Trample and evolve. Bloodbearer of the Vizkopa. Yeah, it's not going to do anything in our deck. If you would draw a card while you have no cards in your hand, instead draw 2 cards and lose 1 life. Nope. Creature's attack gains lifelink. Another creature enters the battlefield, gets +3/+3. Exile all creature cards from target player's graveyard. You gain 3 life for each card exiled this way. Enters the battlefield, mill 10. Beginning of your upkeep, choose a card at random from your graveyard. If it's a creature, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. Each opponent loses 2 times X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. There's at least one infinite mana engine that's going to make it into this deck. I suppose we can add Debt to the Deathless. This is Dragon's Maze. I'm gonna say it should be the first set with Dragon in the name, since it comes up before Cons. This is Debt to the Deathless. Alright. Down and dirty. Discards 2 cards, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Nope. Choose target creature, mill 4 cards, then that creature gets -1/-1 for each land in the graveyard. 2 creature tokens you control, but I'm already kind of off the whole, whatchamacallit, reanimating them. Also, Amara is 7 mana. I feel so bad for her. She was going to be the Forestier, the voice of Resurgence. If you notice, the giant monstrosity in the background is actually the voice of Resurgence token, like what it actually looks like. And they decided at the last minute that to switch that, like to make the mythic make the token, and to have her, so they wound up giving her like really terrible game text and a 7-drop 5/7, just ugh. Wasn't she interested in Jace too? I feel like part of the backstory was that she and Jace were hitting it off. I wonder how she and Jace and Vraska are doing. Like, if that's a thing or not. I don't know, maybe Jace and Vraska are just really good friends. And Jace is still into Amara. Or did she die in this storyline? It's been so long, I genuinely don't remember if Amara's still alive now that I think about it. She might have actually died during Dragon's Maze. Like, I think she and Jace were, like, starting to become a couple. I can't remember if she's still alive now or not. Fatal Fumes is -4/-2. Gaze of Granite. Destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or less. Can't run that. Blue Stones, Guild Gates. Target opponent loses 2 life, then reveals a card at random from their hand. Death Touch. Remove a 1/1 counter from a creature you control. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. 3/3. Buffs all your dudes and debilitates all your non-dudes. You know what I meant? All of the not your dudes, rather. Sacrifice a creature. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Nope. Death Touch. Multicolored creatures you control have Death Touch. Trample and gain Trample. Vigilance and gain Vigilance. Ace's End. Mending Touch. Mutant Spray. Obsidian's Aid. Return a permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. +5/+5. Pontiff's okay, not amazing in this deck. Again, for a more aristocracy build, Pontiff would be fine. Just, has Extort, your other creatures have Extort, and then when he dies, he becomes an enchantment that has Extort and gives all your creatures Extort. Yeah. I don't think we need it. Rakdos Drake. Ready and Willing. Creatures you control are indestructible. This turn, untap each creature you control. Creatures you control gain Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. It's okay. I don't think we need it. Evolve, and when it evolves, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control with a 1/1 counter. You gain 1 life for each creature your opponents control. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Can't block. Put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield at sorcery speed. More Gatekeepers. Enters the battlefield. If you cast it from your hand, put a 1/1 bird creature token in with flying into play and then populate. Selesnya stuff, Simic stuff. Enters the battlefield. Target opponent reveals their hand. Choose an instant or sorcery and exile it. Attacks or blocks its controller loses 2 life. Can't be countered. Reach, Probe, Blue, and Flash. Flying in First Strike. More Gatekeepers. Wait, I thought I saw the white Gatekeepers already. What was the white creature up here that I thought was the white Gatekeeper? Like, way back up here. Oh, it was the Snare Squad. Attacks you may pay white. If you do, tap target creature and opponent controls. Oh, that was worth the effort. Just to confirm that it's something I don't want. Give and Take, Wear and Tear. Vigilance Pro creatures. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, destroy that creature. Put a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So she's a 7 mana. What's the word I'm looking? No Mercy. And it has protection from creatures. I don't think we need, I would rather run No Mercy than her, just because it's way cheaper to get down. Thrashing Moss Dog. No. Tithe Draker, no. Summoner enters the battlefield, put a 2/2 Knight with Vigilance, a 3/3 Centaur, and a 4/4 Rhino with Trample onto the battlefield. I can't run Toil and Trouble. There's the Black Gatekeeper, Unflinching Courage, Verils. There's Voice of Resurgence. Hi, Forestier. Wake the Reflections. And ready and willing again. Alright. See, we got a whole card out of it. Totally worth having been printed. Expansion. That was Dragon's Maze. So now on to Dragons of Tarkir. Let's see if there's any cool dragons and or other creatures that would make awesome enchantments. Turn face up, put a 1/1 counter on it and each other dragon you control, and it's flying Death Touch. Reach and Megamorph. Has reach as long as it has a 1/1 counter on it. Megamorph and Disenchants when it flips face up. Or another creature enters the battlefield under your control. That creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and this has dash. Another non-token creature enters the battlefield. You bolster 1. Enters the battlefield, return a non-land permanent to owner's hand. Enters the battlefield or attacks another target warrior creature, gains double strike. Dies, you may put it on top or bottom of its owner's library. +2/+2 rebound. Uses toughness to assign combat damage. Lets defenders attack. And has reverse group fire breathing where it pumps toughness. Formidable. Gets +4/+4. Monuments. Reach, trample, enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each other creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. 3 mana, 1/1 flying double strike Megamorph. Bolster 1. It's double strike. Attack another warrior. Target player loses X life, you gain X life, where X was the warrior's power. Attacks each warrior you control. Can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Have we not keyworded Menace at this point? I could have sworn we've had Menace longer than Khans of Tarkir. Butcher's Glee, +3/+0 and lifelink and regenerate it. Gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn and rebound. Lifelink. Tap, add 3 to your mana pool. But with Venom. Collected Company. Can only get 3 drops or less. Yes, I had to read Collected Company. I do not play Modern, and it's been forever. So I did forget exactly what the restrictions on what Collected Company could see, like what it could put into play. I don't think we need it. 2/4, 5/1 hexproof. Exile 1 or more creature cards from your graveyard. Put an XX black zombie horror creature token onto the battlefield tapped, where X is twice the number of cards exiled this way. There's the battlefield tapped. Target player draws X and loses X. Exactly 1 creature gets +2/+0, Death Touch and Lifelink. Gets -X/-X. Enters the battlefield if it was cast. 5 or more other creatures on the battlefield. It damnations. Except not itself, like all other creatures. Death Touch. Permanent is turned face up. You can return from your graveyard to the battlefield face up or face down, and has Megamorph. Destroy target creature, power 2 or less. This is the regrowth one, right? And creatures with power less than it can't block it. Target card from your graveyard to your hand. Yep. Destroy target blue or black non-creature permanent. Permanents you control can't be the target of blue or black spells your opponents control this turn. Pro dragons can block dragons as though it had reach. Can't be countered. Flying lifelink. Opponents can't cast spells during your turn. I mean, I was kind of off the one that wouldn't let anybody cast spells on anybody else's turn, but maybe I'm okay with Dramoka here. Go to the next dragons. This is Dragon Lord Dramoka. Defender and first strike. Formidable regenerates. Attacks bolster 1. Tap target creature without flying. 3/1 command. Turn, sack an enchantment, 1/1 counter target creature, and fights target creature you don't control. Bolster 4, good old duress. Dies, return another creature from your graveyard to your hand. Bolster 1. Whenever one or more 1/1 counters are placed on another creature you control, put a 1/1 counter on Enduring Scale Lord. Not that many counters. Destroy target attacking or blocking creature, bolster 1, +1/+2 in fight. Explosive vegetation reprint. Exile target artifact or enchantment. -4/-4. Enters the battlefield, you may have it fight target creature you don't control. Whenever a creature you control fights, put 2 1/1 counters on it at the beginning of the next end step. Return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Target creature gets -X/-X, where X is the toughness of the card returned this way. You may reveal a dragon. Target player sacrifices a creature. Reveal the dragon or control the dragon. Gain 4 life. Nope. This is 1 life for each attacking creature you control. You gain that much life. Attach only to a creature with toughness 4 or greater. +3/+0 and trample. Defender and formidable. I'm pretty sure it can attack. Yeah. +1/+3 and taps a thing. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each 1/1 counter on other creatures you control. Enchanted creature has vigilance and white tap bolster 1. +2/+2 for each aura attached to it. A number of cards from your graveyard on top of your library, then draw a card. +2/+1 and rebound. Turn face up, put a 1/1 counter on another target creature you control. Death touch. There's Hedonist Trove. Don't think we need it. Vigilance, other warriors have vigilance. Flying trample in the whole Megamorph deal that the other dragon had. Turn face up, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater and opponent controls. It's got lifelink. Draw a card for each creature with a 1/1 counter on it. Those creatures are indestructible until end of turn. And look at face down cards. Eventually we'll find something good, right? Blocks it if able. Regenerates. Megamorph. Discard 2. Exploits a creature your opponents control. Or exploits a creature. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. Flying Vigilance Megamorph. Cares when we cast non-creature spells and can become a creature itself. Naturalize. Face down creatures cost 1 less and 2 mana. Turn it face down. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, tap a creature. This gains first strike and lifelink. Exile it and then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Nope. Have to control a dragon or show 1. Defender flying, and I draw a card when it enters the battlefield. Pacifism. Destroy target creature with flying and bolster 2. 5/3. Upkeep lose 2, and it has dash. Things +2/+2. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and this has rebound, but it's also a 7-drop. Exploit. Target opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. Exile target multicolored creature or multicolored enchantment. Exploit and makes 2/2 zombies. 2/2 flying, can't block dash. Gain 6 life and draw a card. Prevent all combat damage will be dealt this turn. You may look at each face down creature that's attacking or blocking. Can't block. Zombies get +1/+1, and you can cast them from your graveyard. It gets more expensive for every dead creature you have. Another permanent you control is turn face up. If it's a creature, put 2 1/1 counters on it. Enters the battlefield with 2 counters. Remove a 1/1 counter from it. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Enters the battlefield, bolster 1. Enters the battlefield, bolster 2. Ah, this doesn't enter the battlefield and bolster 3. We had such a nice chain going there. Yeah, well. Instead, it just has Megamorph. Bolster 1. Comes into play with a counter if you reveal a dragon or have one. Colorless dragon card. Makes X1/1s at instant speed. 6/5 with Megamorph. Target opponent sacrifices a green or white creature. If that player does, they lose 2 life. +1/+1 counter on it. Dies, put its counters on target creature you control. Tap add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend only cast creature spells. And then 11 mana. Each player's life total becomes the number of creatures they control. +0/+5 and gains reach. 2 mana. Flying lifelink. Each player discards a card. Exploit to Demonic Tutor. Exploit to Demonic Tutor, and then if we exploit her to herself, we get the enchantment version if Myrkul's in play. Then we can exploit another creature and get another Demonic Tutor. At least worth considering. Beginning of combat on your turn. Creatures you control toughness 4 greater get +2/+2 vigilance until end of turn. Can't be blocked. Turn face up. Target creature power 3 or less opponent controls. That's one that gave -3/-3. 5/5 formidable. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. Excuse me. Nope. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. When you cast a non-creature spell, you gain 2 life. Bolster X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. Each creature you control with a 1/1 counter gains trample. Flying, whenever an opponent casts a spell, this gets a 1/1 counter. Excuse me. Typical, trying to do this right after eating to capitalize on the amount of time I have to work with before I have to leave. Means that my throat is all kinds of scuzzy and does not want me talking this much. Just like, it would be nice if I could just sit down and talk for a few hours without having to constantly clear my throat at the start of it, but beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control with total power 8 or greater. Target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. You tap, draw a card, only if you cast a non-creature spell this turn. +2 and gains trample, 2/5 death touch, monocolored creature, damage, tokens get -2/-2. 2/3 flying exploit makes, or you draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. Sorry, I was about to say your opponents lose 2 life, and then I realized no, that's not what it says. And a good old 1/6 turtle zombie. Alright. Well, we got 2 whole cards out of that dragon set. So obviously it's twice as good as Dragon's Maze. That's just math. Infinite dual decks. Infinite dual decks. Okay, 8th edition, Eldritch Moon. I wonder if Myrkul would like to be an enchantment. Probably not. Our opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. When you cast Abundant Maw, target opponent loses 3 life, you gain 3 life. I don't think so. Delirium gets +1/+1 and has trample. Choose one or more. Gain 4 life. Untap 2 target creatures. Target opponent sacrifices an attacking creature. Nope. Whenever you sacrifice another permanent, put a 1/1 counter on Bloodbriar. Seems unnecessary. +3/-3. +2/+0 or +0/+2. +1/+1 or -1/-1. Zella. When your opponents can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less. You turn target angel or human creature from your graveyard to the battlefield, flying vigilance. Whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. No to all of these so far. Target creature's controller loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. 5/6 haste menace enters the battlefield. Other creatures you control get +1/+0 and menace until end of turn. Can't attack or block. 5 mana. Sacrifice it to exile the creature. Clear shot. Collective brutality. Collective effort. Requires you to tap other creatures you control. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. Destroy target enchantment. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature target player controls. Conduit of Myrkul. Courageous Outriders. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a human card from among them. So, real quick with the double face cards, I'm pretty sure. Let's do the double tab real quick so we can do this properly. So we go back to Gather and we go to Myrkul. I'm pretty sure that Myrkul makes copies of the creature as it exists in the graveyard, not as it last existed on the field, was part of his rulings. Creates a copy of the cards that last exist in the graveyard. So every double face creature, or modal double face card that is a creature, on the front half, like, it has to die as a creature, first of all, so if the back half were not a creature, it wouldn't trigger anyway. But the token copy will be of the permanent on the front of it, not the back of it. And if the front of it is a spell, which I don't think there are any spells on the front, I think all of the spells are on the back in Strixhaven, means that you can only ever get the front face of the card. Like, the front face is the default face for the card. So we could never get the backside of any of these creatures, we would only get the front face of them. And since they're tokens, they won't have a backside, they can't transform. Enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a human card from among them and put it in your hand. Rest on the bottom in any order. You may put the top card of your library into your graveyard, sacrifice it, return up to 1 target creature card and up to 1 target land card from your graveyard to your hand, only if there are 4 more types. Target attacking human gets +1/+1, discard to make a zombie. Eventually flips into a Myrkul looking thing, like Vestige of Myrkul or something, I think it's called. Cultist Staff, Dark Salvation, no. 3 mana 2/2, no. Cast Estimate of the Provinces. Creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain Trample until end of turn, and it has Trample and Haste. Yeah, we don't have the Planeswalkers for Deploy the Gatewatch. Also, I'm not a huge fan of Deploy the Gatewatch. I feel like this card misses too often. I have a Super Friends deck, and I just look at this and go, I don't even want that. Like, this card just makes me look at it and feel sad, because it's 6 mana, 7 cards, even if your deck is literally full of Planeswalkers. especially in Commander, it's fairly easy to actually miss with this. Like, you know, if your deck is like anywhere close to mine, you're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 lands. And so that means already, like 2/5 of your deck are misses before you even cast this thing, roughly. And then, yeah. Deploy the Gatewatch, always. I would rather just have one of the cards that tutors for a Planeswalker. Like, yes, if you hit things, or if you can stack the top of your deck to guarantee that you hit stuff, then you can possibly deploy 2 Planeswalkers from the top 7, but yeah, every time I see somebody run this card, I'm just like, nah, I disagree with that. You should probably be running any of the ones that just tutor up your Planeswalkers. Like, I would rather run Arena Rector or something over Deploy the Gatewatch. I knew somebody else who had their own Super Friends deck, and they cast Deploy the Gatewatch, and the number of times it missed was actually, like, the fact that it can miss kind of bothers me. The fact that he kept missing all of the time is statistically improbable. Like, a lot of the times he would cast this and either get nothing or get like 1 Planeswalker. The number of times he actually got 2 Planeswalkers off of this thing was even worse than I thought what the bell curve would look like for this deck. So, if I was off it before just on principle, I was even more off it there with how inconsistent it was. But yeah, that, like, his misses started to feel super unlucky, as opposed to, like the first time miss is like, yeah, no, that's a realistic thing, and that's why I don't like to play the Gatewatch. When you miss, like, the third time, though, it's kind of like, that's a bit extreme, even for a deck that's full of Planeswalkers. Like, this should not be missing this often, type of deal. But yeah, like, if you have a 60-card deck and you have tons of Planeswalkers in it, you're probably going to have at most 30, I would think. I forget exactly how many I'm running. It used to be all of them except for, like, Tibalt and Nisa, but then Planeswalkers, you get, like, 2 to 4 per set, so eventually they just had to keep coming out to make room for new ones, and then cards would come along that benefit Planeswalkers, and you have to have things to protect them, and yeah, so by the end of it, you're probably running 30 or less actual Planeswalkers in the deck, in your 100-card deck, so deploy the Gatewatch. If you're building a Super Friends Commander deck, I advise not running that card. Yeah, yes, it reads like it should be in the deck. No, don't do that to yourself. You're a good player, you deserve better than that card. Which is sad, because that means this card has actual no home. If EDH Super Friends is not where this card should be, I don't know where this 6-drop play a bunch of Planeswalker cards would ever have a home. Desperate Sentry and Delirium. Nope. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose from it a non-land card, 3 or less. End a card with 4 or greater. I was about to say non-land, but that's kind of redundant. If it's converted mana cost 4 or greater, it's never going to be a land, and that player discards those cards. Flash enters the battlefield. Other creatures you control gain +1 toughness until end of turn. Can't ever get the backside of these things. That has blue. Costs 2 less to cast if you have Delirium. It's a 4/5 flyer. That one also has blue. Sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library and exile Eldritch Evolution. Like, can run it. I think I'd rather run Order, Natural Order, and I'd rather run Magus of the Order for the way it interacts with my deck over regular Natural Order. So, yeah, I don't think Myrkul wants to be an enchantment. I think she's fine just the way she is with her giant tentacles. Evangel on any number of other non-Eldrazi creatures. Put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi onto the battlefield for each creature sacrificed this way. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi creature spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater, draw 2 cards. No. No. Cast it from exile. Becomes a target spell or ability opponent controls. Exile it. Have vigilance. Sacrifice a non-Eldrazi. Put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi or creature token. Alright, this is the when they're equipped. Is it this thing? Yeah. Enters the battlefield. You may sacrifice another permanent if you do. Oh no, he's a Delirium. There's one of them that cares if they're equipped to flip them, and I thought it was this thing, but I was wrong. So, enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another permanent. If you do, put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror token. Beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more card types, it flips. Eldrazi you control vigilance, and 2 tap, sacrifice a non-Eldrazi creature. Put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror onto the battlefield. Faith Unbroken, 3/4 lifelink, Field Creeper, Fiendbinder. Nope. Final Iteration, no. Also, we couldn't even if we wanted to. Creature card from among them and put in your hand. For the rest on the bottom of your library. When you sacrifice Foul Emissary while casting a spell with a merge, put a 3/2 Eldrazi horror. Another creature you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on it. Gotta reach Sanitarium. So 2 mana, 2/3, Defender flying, and then Delirium loses Defender. Our creature spells are more expensive. Flying, first strike, lifelink. Beginning of your end step, if you both own and control Gisela the Broken... Oh, right. She has the trigger for them to merge. Target creature gets +2/+6 until end of turn and can block any number of creatures. And can be blocked by any number of creatures, but that was always true. Death Touch, Delirium. Unless it wasn't, unless it said it couldn't be blocked by more than 1 or fewer than 3 or, whatever. In which case, that little bit would actually have some rules value that I added on there. +2/+2. As long as you have Delirium, have Menace, exile a creature from your graveyard, make a zombie. There's the rats. Put top 3 into your graveyard. Turn a creature or a land to your hand. Trample deals combat damage to a player. Top 3 cards of your library, put any of them in the graveyard, the rest back on top, and Delirium gets +2/+2. Guardian of Pilgrims. Target creature gets +1/+1. Attacks or blocks, other humans get +1/+1. That's a red card, functionally. And there's the backside on it. Enters the battlefield, make a 1/1 Spirit, and discard 2 cards, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. 3/3 Flash, lifelink, enters the battlefield, other humans get +1/+1 and gain lifelink until end of turn. Enters the battlefield, return target aura or equipment from your graveyard to your hand. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Reach, Delirium, 4 more cards. You get 3 1/2 spiders, and 7 mana, target opponent loses 1 life for each spider you control. 4/4, and makes 2 1/1s when you cast it. 4/4 first strike, trample, lifelink. And a 2/1. That has blue in the emerge cost. I don't think we care about Lily for this deck, right? But the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Keeps making zombies and the -2/-1 thing. +1/+1 for each creature in your graveyard. First strike lifelink, you have to gain 3 life to flip it. Exile target creature, beginning the next end step, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a 1/1 counter. +2/+2 and has 1 sacrifice a permanent, this creature gains flying. 2 mana 5/5 that can't attack or block unless somebody has no cards in hand. Has haste as long as you control another vampire. Hello, Dr. Cryptic. Thank you for stopping by. We are working on building Myrkul for Commander for today. Cast it, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Mornwillow, haste, delirium. Creatures with power 2 or less can't block this turn. Soul murder. Cause you to discard a card, reveal it, and put it on top of your library. No. No. Gain flying. Gain 3 life. Deals combat damage to a creature, becomes a copy of Permeating Mass. Nope. Search your library for a basic land. Nope. Reveal this card from your opening hand. If you do, at the beginning of your first upkeep, your life total becomes 26, and when you cast it, your life total becomes 26. I can do that. I don't have a Discord, so you'd have to, if you have like one of the sites that you use for deck building and you want to put the link, I can look at it. Trying questions. Loses 3 life and puts a card from their hand on top of their library. Nope. On humans, no. Rise from the grave, nope. -13, -13. Another creature enters the battlefield under your control, gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Exile a creature from your graveyard, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Sacrifice Selfless Spirit. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Is okay with Myrkul, is not amazing. But is another way to protect it if our life total is too high, and it does work twice, and it can protect our other things, so... Are we on Eldritch Moon? There we go. Selfless Spirit. Shrill Howler. Creatures with power less than Shrill Howler can't block it. That's the equipment thing. How do I view what you just tried to say? Because I should be able to see it. 3 messages were deleted by a moderator and timed out for 300 seconds. How do I grant permission then? Because I did not mean for that to happen, and I am sorry about that. I should be able to see the deleted messages. Why did that not pop up? And now you don't have a name on the screen for me to click on to chat highlight by default. Recent raids, clear chat. Deleted messages. I deleted messages from chat entirely. Show the content of the deleted messages and the action taken to delete them. There we go. Let's put that back on. Alright. Can I untime you out? there we go. There's the button. Sorry about that. My settings apparently did not like that you tried to post the link and immediately attacked them. And I did not realize it was going to do that, and that was not my intent. Alright, how do I get this out of my way now so I can go back to my chat? Ah, it was up too high. Alright, close that out. Alright, so let's take a quick little peek over here. It's a Lyra Dawnbringer. Can I shrink it down and still see my chat? There we go. Yeah, sorry about that. I did not mean for it to time you out, and I have not had it do that before. Like, I've had it pop up where it's like, hey, do you want to allow this? Like, this one just auto did it. I might not have had Stream Elements working properly before, so that might have been it, so I do apologize. So let's see, it's a Lyra Dawnbringer deck. We have Broker's Hideout, Command Tower, Faceless Haven, Obscura Storefront, 14 Plains, Radiant Fountain, Shimmer Drift Veil, 13 Snow-Covered Plains, and a War Room. Ankh of Mishra is the one that deals damage when lands die, right? Let's see if there's anything that goes along with that. Arcane Signet, Basalt Monolith, Basilisk Collar, Blackblade Reforged. Oh, I can actually highlight and will show me. So yeah, it is the land equipment that makes treasure. Thisay's Ring, Soul Ring, Sword of Light and Shadow, Thought Vessel. Okay, that's the no maximum hand size. Enters the battlefield under your control, gain life equal to its toughness. Enters the battlefield, yeah, it's Banishing Light. Cleric class, Duelist Heritage, gives double strike. It's a removal enchantment, makes some 1/1s. Opponent casts a creature spell, becomes a 5/5 Flying Vigilance. Creature attacks, gain 1 life. Good old Smothering Tithe. That's attacking you. Okay, there's Test of Endurance. So that's one of the payoffs for all this life gain. For each thing attacking you, if you control a commander as you cast the spell, okay, that's the one that gives out all of Akroma's things. Good old Disenchant, Divine Offering, Exile, Invoke the Divine, Path, Release to Memory, destroy all creatures that dealt damage to you this turn, Revitalize, Skywhaler Shot. Alright, creatures, we have Valkyrie, Aegis Angel, Angel of Destiny, Finality, Jubilation, Dawn, Angel. Alright. Justice, Baneslayer, Bastion Protector. Commander creatures you control have +2/+2 and double strike. Battle Angels of Tyr, Binding Angel. Is Binding Angel the morph one? Or am I thinking? No, that's one of the other ones. I'm thinking of Exalted Angel. Bruna. Oh, there's Exalted Angel. She's right there. Bruna Fading Light, Daxos, Ameria Angel, Shepherd. There's Exalted, Gisela. One's Enforcer. Flying Lifelink. Beginning of each combat, if you have more life than an opponent, gains double strike. Karmic Guide. Queen Linden. Aspirant, Ornithopter, Valkyrie, Sanctifier, Flying Vigilance, other creatures you control have Vigilance, Shattered Angel, under the battlefield you gain 3 life, Vanguard enters the battlefield or attacks, choose any number of creatures with different powers, those creatures gain double strike, Soul Warden, Starnheim Aspirant, Sunblast Angel, and Youthful Valkyrie. Alright, so first thing that comes to mind, especially if you're going to run Test of Endurance, I would consider the Felidar Sovereign also. Yeah. So we're already got a second tab open. So Felidar Sovereign. So yeah, Vigilance Lifelink, beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. So similar to Test of Endurance on a creature body, and fits in your life gain theme. Also, like, instead of Blessed Reversal, let's see if I can spell this right. Comeuppance, I believe it's called. Nope. Let's go back to this page, see if it'll auto-complete it for me. Help me out here, autocomplete. Is it Comeuppance? Oh, it is Comeuppance. Okay. With an E. So, prevents all damage to you and planeswalkers you control, and then deals damage equal to the amount of damage prevented to the source's controller. So instead of gaining 3 life for each creature and then taking a whole lot of damage, it fogs and it deals them damage. There are a couple other cards that will let you gain life when you're attacked, that are more like reusable, like enchantment based. Um, let's see. Let's pull back up the list again. Oh, it opened up over here. For Gilded Lotus, honestly, you could probably replace Sisei's Ring. At 1 more colorless mana, it gives you 3 mana instead of 2, and fixes your color. Well, you're mono white, so fixing your colors probably isn't super important. Also, you can probably, if you don't want to get rid of that, you can probably ditch the Unk of Mishra. I was actually expecting to see, like, Armageddon or something on the list to run Unk of Mishra. Just because, like, yeah, you'll get some incidental damage in against people that use fetch lands or deal a bunch of damage to the players that run Armageddon effects, but you'll also take a bunch of damage since it's whoever's land is dying. So either of those could come out for it. In fact, if you wanted to get the Adaptive Automaton in there to name angels, you could definitely get rid of Unk of Mishra. I think it doesn't really do anything with any of the other cards that you have in here. But yeah, if you're looking to add any of those cards in, those are my first recommendations for cuts. I think they're the lowest impact cards. Yeah, the Unk seems to be very low impact in your deck. Like, since you're not destroying your opponent's lands, it just randomly deals a handful of damage to players while they're doing other stuff. So yeah, I think you would be better off, especially if you have cards that you're looking to add into the deck. That's a very easy one to pull out and not have, because it's not really doing much for you here. If we want to get the Helm in, the Helm is very expensive to cast and to equip. Which Thought Vessel is the mana rock. Whenever I see Thought Vessel, I keep thinking of Muse Vessel for some reason. Um, yeah, playing and equipping is very expensive. So if we want to make room for it, I'm kind of inclined to take out one of the higher casting cost, lower impact cards. So that way you're not running too many expensive things. Now, that one's one of the better high drops in your deck. Those two work together. That's fine. Oh, right. Casting cost is over here. So let's see. You got Bruna as a 7-drop. Amaria Shepherd is a 7-drop. The Enforcer is just a 5/5 double strike. If you wanted to make room for the Helm, that might be a card to cut. I like your other higher casting cost creatures better in this deck than the 5/5 that might be double strike sometimes for 7 mana. Yeah, those would be my recommendations. Also, if you can get more snow-covered lands, since you're already running the Faceless Haven, if you can replace the other planes with snow planes, so that way you can more consistently activate it. Also, for that matter, if we're looking for ways to replace cards for slightly better cards, if you have access to Cold Steel Heart, since it makes white mana and only costs 2 instead of the 4 mana for the Sisay's Ring, because you have a lot of higher casting cost stuff, so the sooner you can get ramp cards into play, the faster you can get to some of your better cards. Also, I would look into, if you don't have that, I might look into Worn Power Stone. I don't think those are particularly expensive. You might be able to find one. It's like a 3-drop artifact. It comes into play tapped and adds 2 colorless mana, so it's 1 less than the ring. And then it makes 1 less than Basalt Monolith, but always untaps normally. Thran Dynamo might be a bit more expensive, like a couple dollars, as opposed. I think Worn Power Stone is in like the dollar range. I think Thran Dynamo might be a couple dollars though, but that is a 4-drop that taps for 3 instead of 2. I think any of those would help you out just to get your like higher casting cost angels online faster. Lotus Field works a lot better if you have ways to untap it, because you're going neutral on the lands. Like, you lose the 2 lands and you get the Lotus Veil, so the Lotus Veil adds 3. So either you need a way to replay the lands like Crucible of Worlds, or you need a way to untap a land, so that way instead of getting 1 extra mana, you're getting 3 extra mana when you untap it. At least for a deck like this. If it's helping you fix colors in a more, multicolored deck, then maybe that's still worth it. But, if you wanted to get Lotus Field for, like, other decks, and then you wanted to run it in here in the meantime, that would be fine, but I don't think that's going to help particularly with what you're doing. Just because it doesn't actually put you up on mana when you play it. Real quick, I'm gonna bop back over here. The only reason I would put Gilded Lotus in this deck is, like I said, to replace a subpar artifact mana source. So, like the Sisay's Ring, I think you're getting more out of Gilded Lotus by having it make 3 mana for 5 than you are getting 2 mana for 4. The other 2 that I suggested to replace it, if you have access to them or can find them, the Worn Power Stone and the Thran Dynamo, are also just better Sisay's Rings at that point. and help you ramp towards your more expensive spells a bit sooner or a bit more effectively. But yeah, if you have the Gilded Lotus and you're looking for a card to replace it with, like I said, I would go with the Sisei's Ring, because I think that's low enough impact that the extra mana that it costs and the extra mana that it makes would both be better for you than uh, the two colorless that you're getting from the ring. You can definitely add Windbrisk Heights. You're mono white, so it's not hurting you to run a comes into play tap land. You have a lot of expensive creatures, so it's going to be harder to consistently activate it. And most of your creatures don't make other creatures. That being said, it's a very low cost, like deck building wise, to add a land that comes into play tap to your deck. So the Windbrisk Heights isn't going to negatively impact you most of the time for playing it. So if it randomly gets you one of your larger angels for 1 mana activated, then that should be fine. Discard a card. Each player loses 2 life. Nope. That one fights. No. Oh, makes tokens. Flying and you gain 2 life. No. Enters the battlefield. Each other creature you control, that's a wolf or werewolf, gets +0/+3. Don't need reclamation. That. Yeah, no problem. I love talking about Magic, and I will certainly try and help anybody who's working on anything if I feel at all qualified for it. Yeah, cutting cards is always the worst. Everything that you picked to put in the deck, you had a reason for it when you put it in there. So trying to find room for a new card always kind of hurts. Or when you're just doing the deck building and you gotta get it down to a reasonable number of cards. +0/+2, no. +3/+3, attacks, it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, becomes unattached, sacrifice the permanent. Nope. Discard a card, no. Enters the battlefield, tap all creatures opponents control. Flash and reach. Block an additional creature. First strike. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. There's a battlefield. Search your library for a legendary card, reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. Depends on what legendary cards we want to search for. For the automaton, let's see. What were we looking at before post approach? So if we wanted to get a card out for the automaton, as well, Blessed Reversal, Disenchant, Divine Offering, Exile, Invoke the Divine, Path, Release to Memory, Vitalize, Skyweller's Shot. Jubilation, Angel of Dawn. Let's see. If we wanted to replace, oops. We wanted to replace one of the more expensive cards that's lower impact. Where was it? It was like one of the 5 drops on the list. Angel of Dawn. Um, your adaptive automaton is giving a permanent +1/+1 bonus, and the vigilance until end of turn is kind of whatever at that point in comparison. And you're also shaving 2 mana off of the cost to get a more aggressive creature earlier. So that one is a possibility. The other one is the Opal Archangel. While you're certainly always going to be able to trigger it, players are going to cast creature spells and not care that you get a 5/5 vigilance for 5 mana. It does require them to actually give you the creature sometimes, which if they're already winning, they might not need to. So you might need an opponent that's behind that needs to get a creature onto the board in order to trigger it in the later parts of the game. If you don't draw it in the first, 6-7 turns, when everybody needs to be deploying anyway. So I would cut one of those two most likely. Probably the Angel of Dawn. I think it has less impact for your deck than any of the other creatures. I think the Ornithopter is fine, just as another mana ramp in your colors. Okay. Pull these guys back up. We have... Right, we were looking at Thalia's Lancers. I don't know how many legends I'm going to be running in this deck, but I suppose we'll add it to the list, and then we can always cut it if I don't have enough. Thirsting Axe, Thraben Foulbloods, no. A 1/1 white human soldier creature token onto the battlefield, no. Old Tree of Perdition. Sad green. With toughness 4 greater dies, draw a card. 1/1 Skulk Lifelink. That's blue. Sack 3 other creatures. Wailing Ghoul enters the battlefield. Put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. 1 target werewolf you control. Creatures you control gain trample. 3/3 madness. No, 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 and that's blue. Okay. Oh, that's all of Eldritch Moon. Next up is Eventide. Sacrifice Arios deals damage equal to its power to target creature with flying. So the third time wouldn't do anything, because we can sack it, have it persist, sack it again, and then the enchantment version would have no power. Trample, power and toughness equal the number of creatures in play. Doesn't untap, tap 5 creatures to untap it, no. Target white creature gains persist. Probably not. Graveyard from play. Remove target permanent from the game. We can add the Archon to the list. I don't know that I'm going to... Evening Star. Eventide. There we go. I'm going to have room for it, but... Ashling is deals combat damage. They sacrifice a creature. Well, destroy a creature of their choice. So CMC, also called mana value now, it used to be called converted mana cost, is always the same for a card. Reducing the overall cost of your deck, though, means you have more plays earlier. In Commander, though, you don't want too many early plays that are low impact. You want things that are advancing your game plan. So, for example, you've got like the Soul Warden because you want to gain life, and Daxos. Like those are early plays that are setting you up to do um, more life gain towards some of your goals that your deck can do. Um, the reason why I want to bring it down a little bit is you have a lot of like 5 and 6 and 7 drop angels. So having a 3 drop that's impactful over a 5 drop, and the 3 drop is having a like more of an impact on your other cards than the 5 drop is why I'm interested in getting rid of it, as opposed to one of your other like 3 drops to make room for the automaton. So yeah, I'm not worried about your mana costs in that. Um, let's see, Rings of Bright Earth is activated abilities. So the question then becomes, how many of your abilities are activated? A lot of your abilities seem to be triggered. Adakar Valkyrie is an activation. Aegis is a trigger. Destiny is a trigger. Trigger. Static. Trigger. Static, and then lifelink is static. The +1/+1 counters is a trigger. That's a trigger. Those are all statics. That one's static. That one's triggered by combat damage. That one's triggered by combat damage. That's a trigger when you cast it. Yeah, a lot of your abilities seem to be either triggered abilities that happen when a thing happens, or just static abilities on the cards. Rings of Bright Earth can only copy activated abilities, so like the Valkyrie is tapped to bring a creature back. That's an activated ability. Anything that's written as cost and then the colon and then the effect is an activated ability. So the rings can copy things like the Valkyrie bringing a creature back, but most of these things seem to be triggered abilities, which means if you really wanted to copy a triggered ability, the only real way to do that right now is Strionic Resonator, which is from like one of the core sets. Yeah, the Gleaming Barrier. It's not an angel. It's not gaining you life. It's not doing a lot for you other than being an 0/4, which doesn't really do much in the grand scheme of things for Commander. I would skip the Gleaming Barrier, honestly. Tap target creature, play a white spell, untap her. All combat damage will be dealt to you if white was spent. Each player loses 1 life for each attacking creature if black was spent. So 1/1 flyer and exiles a card. Nope. Comes into play, choose an opponent. Canker Abomination comes in with a -1/-1 counter for each creature that player controls. -3/-3, and +3/+3. Target creatures, each of those creatures gain persist. Yeah, I would say that for now. The Sisei's Ring can easily get replaced by the Lotus. Um, just to give you more mana to work with for not a significant investment above the ring. Do I want Cauldron Haze? That really depends on how many Aristocrats cards I want to run in this deck. We'll see. I keep getting more and more off the Aristocrat-specific strategy the more I look at this deck, so I don't know if we'll still want Cauldron Haze or the Soul Urn or whatever it's called when we get to it. But I'll at least put it on the list for right now. Because we're going to need some number of ways to sacrifice our creatures for value to set up this deck anyway, so. Gain 1 life. Beginning of your upkeep, may put a 1/1 black and green worm token into play. Beginning of your upkeep, destroy target creature with a -1/-1 counter. Deathbringer Liege, Deity of Scars. Overall, yes, your deck's total converted mana cost will go back up. But the benefit of the card then has to outweigh the benefit of the lower casting cost card, and I think getting you from 5 mana to 8 mana is going to do you better than getting you from 4 mana to 6 mana when you have a bunch of 7 drops in your deck. This is creature at random, right? Oh, creature with the highest power. So, still probably not. Flying Lifelink gets +4/+4 as long as you have 25 or more life. Yeah, the Lotus is meant to get you from your mid game to your late game a bit faster. Then the ring will let you get there. Trample. Beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature, gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Destroy target land. 7/7 Trampler. Let me search for all my planes and put them on top of my deck. All damage that will be dealt to you and permanents you control this turn. Cares about auras. Black creatures gain Wither. Blink effect. If you control 2 or more planes, put a 1/1 Kithkin Soldier. If you control 2 or more swamps, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Nope. Edge Mage comes in play. 2 or more swamps. Have target player discard a card. 2 or more forests. You may put target card from your graveyard on top of your library. Hallowed Burial, which we're going to avoid because we want our stuff to die rather than go on the bottom. 2/4 Wither. Green creature gets +1/+1. That affects red. Destroy target enchantment and has persist. I'd rather run like the unicorn or something. Shave like 5 mana off of that. 4 mana off of that. Comes in play, you gain 1 life for each black and or red permanent you target opponent controls. It's 2/2. Creature gets +1/+1 for each white mana symbol and its cost. Golgarian loses Defender. Nope. Comes into play, destroy target island or swamp. Golgarian graveyard from the game, play a black spell, untap it. Necro Skitter. Spectre, Sentinel. Flyer, 1/1 lifelink. No. Tap to make a 1/1. Each player returns each creature card in their graveyard to play with a -1/-1 counter on it. Nope. +3, Raven's Crime. Gain 1 life. Draw a card for each green creature you control. Wither and persist. Persist. Deal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you gain life equal to its toughness, then lose life equal to its power and put in your hand. Draw a card, return an artifact creature from your graveyard to play. Player plays a non-black spell, that player loses 1 life. Creature, its controller loses 3 life. Only if another black spell this turn. -1. A bunch of goats. Generates. Has blue in the activation. Loses 2 life, gain 2 life. Deals their hand, choose a green or white card. From it, you gain life equal to that card's toughness, then that player discards that card. Nope. Turn up to 2 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Probably not. Blade Slasher. Umbra Stalker. Toughness are each equal to the number of black mana symbols in cards in your graveyard. Nope. No. Nope. Target artifact or enchantment. No. And Worms of the Earth. Alright, so that was Eventide. Exodus. Alright, Exodus, what have you got for my deck? Only got a little less, well, a little bit more than half an hour left, so power through Exodus real quick. Allay, yeah, it's true. Similarly to how I had Shattering Pulse in the Beamtown Bullies deck, Allay has a very high chance of being one of my enchantment removal spells, just for its reusability. Damages any opponent. You may reveal cards from your library until you reveal a land card. Put that land into play and the other cards into your graveyard. Cartographer. Return a land. Discards a card. Only as a sorcery. Artifact, creature, enchantment, and land, and sacrifices the rest. No. +0/+3. City of Traders. Less life, gain a life. Defending player chooses an untapped creature they control. That creature blocks Crashing Boar if able. Back a creature at 4 black. Target creature with shadow. Go ahead. Ask me your question. If I didn't want to answer questions, I wouldn't have gone through all the trouble to untime you out so you could keep talking to me. I have absolutely no problem asking or answering questions. I don't have much of a problem asking questions either, but you know, if it's something I know or something I can help with, I will. Destroy target blocking creature. Return 2 target creatures from your graveyard to your hand. Target attacking creature gets -3 power. +1/+1 until end of turn. We need that. Return target creature to its owner's hand unless they pay 1. Each turn cannot attack unless you sacrifice a land. Gains 1 life. Archon of Justice, so when it dies, you choose a permanent in play, and the Archon exiles it. So you can choose any permanent that you want, as long as that permanent doesn't have anything that stops it from being targeted by a spell or ability, so Hexproof, if it's an opponent's permanent, Shroud for any permanent, or Protection from white. If it has an ability like Ward, you would have to pay the additional cost for targeting it with the Archon's ability, but yeah, you just choose a permanent in play that you want to have exiled when the Archon dies, and that will be the permanent that it will attempt to exile. And then players can respond to that if they have anything that would stop it from being a valid target, or bounce it back to their hand if they have a way to do that, but Yeah, that's how the Archon works. Pay X life. Target creature gets plus X plus O until end of turn. Block an additional creature. Play any spell, return it to owner's hand. All of the keepers that you have to have less of the thing than the opponent. Fortune, limited resources, mana bond. Alright, target creature. Comes into play, choose and discard any number of creature cards. Gets 2 counters. Mindless Automaton. Miri. It depends. So yes, it does have that effect where the opponents don't necessarily want to kill it. Sometimes if one player doesn't have the scariest things on the board, they might kill your Archon, so that way you'll take care of one of the more dangerous permanents that's going to affect both you and that player, because they don't have a way to deal with that thing, but they can kill the Archon. So that might be a thing in group play, but yeah, the Archon basically says you don't want to kill it if you have the best stuff, or if the player that controls the Archon thinks you deserve to lose your thing. Pay X life, draw X cards. Discard your hand, counter target non-creature spell. 3 oaths. First strike, pro black, pro red. There's Peace of Mind again. Takes a 1/1, then buy back, sack a land. Choose a card in your hand and put it on top of your library. Prevent all damage from a black or red source. Game. For a target non-black creature with total casting cost of X. +3/+3. Cast a creature spell. Put a 1/1 counter on enchanted creature. Pygmy Troll gets +1/+1 and regenerate it. +1/+1. Sacrifice a land to buy back and it gains 2 life. Remove target attacking creature you control from combat and untap it. Recurring Nightmare. Sorry, you're not legal. Or maybe I'm not. You'd be dumb and I'd run you in every black deck I ever built that has creatures in it. Until end of turn, each creature you control gains 1 regenerate this creature. Sack a forest to regenerate that. No. Flying +1/+2 as long as an opponent has a non-basic. Power and toughness equal a number of non-basics. Slaughter. Damages a player. Destroy target enchantment they control. Attack or block. Soul Warden. Spellbook. Sphere. Eats all the 1/1 counters off of creatures. Got all of these guys. Yeah, we're probably gonna add survival to the list again. Creature based deck. Combos. Can't not at least consider survival of the fittest. Sacrifice Surgeon, look at target player's hand, choose one of those cards. That player discards that card as a sorcery. Enters the battlefield, return an artifact from the graveyard. Discard a card, +2/+2. We can consider Wood Elves also as another way to ramp. That is a creature. Workhorse and Zealots. In Commander, the total casting cost in your hand can afford to be a bit higher. It's more a question of how much mana can you generate early on. You don't want to keep a hand that has a couple of early drops and only 2 lands most of the time if you can help it, especially in multiplayer where you get the first mulligan is free, so you don't have to put a card back if you have a weak hand. Um, Generally, you want to keep playing lands for as often as you can, so you want to have at least 3, probably 4 in your opening hand is ideal, but it also depends on what you can do in the first few turns of the game and whether or not any of your other cards can make mana for you. So you get more out of having like 2 lands and an arcane signet, than you do having 2 lands and like the Soul Warden and Daxos. Um, Basically, you want to make sure that by like turn 10, you're going to have your 7 mana, so you don't want to keep hands where you can miss your first couple land drops and then you only have like 2 in play at a time. Um, One of the worst things is falling dramatically behind early if you don't have a lot of cards that will allow you to catch up and win the game from behind. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of your cards look like you want to be about middle of the road by the time you're casting your big spells. Like, if you're really far behind, your opponents are going to be able to kill your 1 or 2 creatures a lot of the time and not have to worry about it if you're only deploying like 1 threat at a time. Yeah, it's normally okay to not have a lot of early plays that impact the board in Commander because you have the higher starting life total than normal. You can afford to take some amount of damage before you actually get going. And there's also not a whole lot of reason to attack any given player in the early game other than to get damage in and start moving towards the end of the game. So the reason to attack you is probably not greater than the reason to attack another player with a slightly slow start if somebody has an aggressive creature early on. It's more important that when you get to like 4 mana or 5 mana in like the first 4 to 5 turns of the game, so that way when you draw some of your more impactful spells, you can actually cast them on time, and that will do a lot to stabilize against the early aggressive threats, especially if your way of stabilizing is not the default best creature on the field, because even if you play like a decent sized creature and it's stopping their little guy from attacking, their removal spell might not go to that if there's also another decent sized creature on the table that's stopping them from attacking that player, and that creature is a bit scarier. Like, they don't want to kill your 4/4 flying lifelink if the opponent has like something that's going to kill all of their stuff in a couple of turns type of deal. Like, they have to deal with that one first, or that's going to generate a large amount of card advantage over time. So, but it's important that you be able to get to that point where you can play the larger stabilizing creature, so that way you're not continuing to take damage once everybody else has started playing their threats. Because if you're the only person that doesn't have anything and they have a little creature, there's no reason for them not to attack you if the little creature isn't blocking. So, or if the little creature generates any kind of advantage for them, like your Ragavans and whatnot, making treasures. Opponents are going to keep attacking you since you're vulnerable, but so you want to be able to get to that point where you're playing the middle side of your mana base, your 4s and 5 drops. I mean, I've played against way worse interactions in Commander. It depends on your play group, though. You could ask me if I think you're being a jerk to players, and I will say no, but it matters more the group of players you're playing with and what they consider to be the jerk moves. because that will determine whether or not they're happy to see you when you show up, or if they're just kind of like, oh great, here's this guy again. And so it's really a question of, if your playgroup has combos like that and the other players are using them, then it should be fine. If it becomes an issue where every time you win it's through like a alternate win con, like the Test of Endurance or the Angel, and it gets very frustrating for them, and you're winning fairly consistently with it, maybe consider adjusting the deck so that way, like, everybody wants to win, but if it's not a tournament, you don't have to be as cutthroat competitive as possible in order to do that. When it's casual, it's more about, are the players having fun at the table? But yeah, if you're playing against players where there's prizes on the line, by all means run whatever you have that's legal in the format that will win you the most games. Outside of that, it's a question of whether you and the other players are having fun playing the game. Because at that point, if it's casual and it's making everybody else miserable, I would consider removing the cards. But if it's just like every once in a while you get a win out of it, and you're not like always winning with the same combo all the time, or winning super consistently with it, then it's probably fine. And if players are super whiny about it afterwards, that might be more on them, especially if they're winning, like, 8 out of the 10 games that they're playing with you, and then you win with Test of Endurance. It's like, that's a stupid way to win. That sounds more like they're complaining that they're not winning all the time type of deal. So yeah, I would consider that more, I would consider that more a question of the play group that you're playing with, as opposed to whether or not I think it's a good or jerk move to play with cards like that. Do you normally play like with only one other player, or do you normally play in groups with Commander? Because the Binding Angel, as far as locking a player out of the game, really only matters as like being like oppressive if you're playing with only one player. Okay, so if you're playing with 4 players and you're just stopping one player from being able to attack consistently, then the Blinding Angel is not that big a deal. Also, between 4 players, if the Angel is that much of a problem, somebody should have a removal spell that they can point at it. So it's not like you're being unreasonable with your one creature stopping them from doing stuff. Alright, so we made it up through Exodus. It's just about time for me to end stream, though. I gotta get ready for work soon, so we'll put that there and save. Oh yeah, now, the biggest question of whether or not you're being that guy is entirely the rest of the play group and their opinion of you. Like, I have decks that I play very rarely because they're less fun for the people I'm playing against, so I only break them out either when I'm playing against other people that have decks of that caliber, or because I haven't played it in like 3 months. And I just want to play it once and have fun with it, and then it goes back in the box, and then I take out one of the decks that has like more interaction with the players that I'm playing with, because I get more fun out of casual games when I have a deck that is at the power level of the other players. I don't need, because I have every card in Magic. Like, I can build any deck that I want to in Commander, and if I just built the super competitive, mean-spirited decks, and just beat my opponents because I have this massive collection and all of these expensive cards, that's not fun. That's me beating up on people that can't fight back against me. I would rather play a deck that's more middle of the road and play against the players that I'm playing against closer to on their level, and win through strategy, than I would just being able to overwhelm them with raw power and money. So I pick the decks that I play. I do have a few decks that are very mean spirited, but that's because sometimes a person shows up who wants to play Commander and they like the mean spirited. Like, if all the decks are mean spirited, then everybody's playing the cool deck that they want to play, and that I think is the same as everybody playing with the mid range deck at that point. So it's not like nobody's being a jerk for playing the deck that would be a jerk against like the normal players at that point. Everybody's got their cool combo deck, and we're all going to run it and see which one of us actually built the best combo deck at that point. So that's the way I tend to look at it. Yeah, no, I have absolutely no problem helping somebody out. I'm not gonna lie. It seems fine, especially for a first attempt. Like I said, there's a couple cards that aren't doing anything that your deck wanted to do, which is why I was interested in pulling them out, like the Unk of Mishra. One of the things that I do, but this is because I'm me and I have access to everything, is I try and find the cards that are doing what the deck wants to do, and are moving that agenda forward, as opposed to random cool cards that happen to be kind of related to the deck. So when I see a card that's not doing anything that the rest of the deck is doing, that's the type of card I immediately lock onto as, yeah, maybe we should get this one out of there. Especially if it's not a utility card. Like, utility cards obviously have to go in every deck. You want to be able to deal with every type of permanent and certain types of strategies. So you want at least one or two cards that can destroy, creatures, enchantments, artifacts, planeswalkers, lands, exile cards from graveyards, maybe some things that interact with repeatable spells and whatnot. So that way you have access to at least one card, if not a couple of cards, that get you around the common strategies that show up in a lot of commander decks. But beyond that, I like to have all of the cards kind of be on theme. Especially if I can find the card that works in the deck that doesn't work in most commander decks and is just 100% what the card's all about, and be like, yeah, no, this card is exactly what this commander does, and no other commander that's not a similar design is going to want this card. So that's why like the Ankh was like the first card, if you needed cuts, I kind of homed in on. But beyond that, as far as first builds go, I think it's perfectly fine. So yeah, just keep working on it. Find cards that you like that kind of work with your theme. Other angel cards, other cards that benefit angels. If you want to keep going with the life gain theme, like I said, I would look into Felidar Sovereign as another test of endurance type card, and a card that works well with the other angel that wins you the game if your life total is super high when she deals damage. But that's going to happen a lot, especially if you just built the deck. It takes a lot of shuffling to get a good mix of the land and spells when you first build it. Decks tend to clump, especially early on. So yeah, I just shuffle with it for a while before you take it out to do anything with it. Thank you for stopping by, Dr. Cryptic, but I do have to get ready for work, so I'm going to be ending the stream now. But I appreciate you stopping by and chatting with me. It's always nice to have somebody to interact with on the stream. And I will see you and all of the lurkers and the people who watch the VODs later on next time, and have a good rest of your day.